crap. Good evening, friends. I'd like to welcome you back to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker. It is the show that dares to ask the question, just what is in my storage locker? The answer today, as always, is comic books. I have a storage locker filled with comic books. I grab a pile. I look through them on the television screen for you here, for your pleasure, your edification, your entertainment. There's a little cat who is known to, shall we say, run onto the set and cause all sorts of disruption and chaos. There's not a lot we can do but cross our fingers and hope that he doesn't break too much. So let's just get started here with Daredevil Annual number 6 from 1991. Now, Daredevil had only had 6 annuals up to 1991. Not every character had an annual every year. They tended to be reserved for the characters who sold the best. And for whatever reason, DD never really qualified most years. But in the 90s, they made a bigger push towards the annuals, I think because they were making a bigger push towards everything in the early 90s especially, trying to, get product out on the shelves. So this was the year after the biggest annual crossover that Marvel ever did, which was Atlantis Attacks in 1989. Wait, so this is 1990. I said 91. I'm sorry. So Atlantis Attacks, 1989, 14 annuals. That seems absolutely, rookie numbers nowadays. But in terms of what that story was and what it required, 14 annuals, not all done by the, the series creators, but many of them done by the series creators, all sort of trying to, play fair within continuity. And it's actually a pretty deep story in terms of, continuity lore and stuff. If you remember the Marvel 50th anniversary book they did a little after, there's a tiny little section on Atlantis Attacks, and one of the creators who were involved was quoted saying something along the lines of, it was great to have done, but I don't think we're ever going to do one like that again, because I get the feeling it was rather a huff. So the next year they didn't give up on the annual crossovers. What they did was they cut them into little bite-sized pieces, so that you had all the X-Men books and Fantastic Four in a group. You had the Spider-Man books in a group, obviously, the Avengers books, and then you were left over with 4 books that didn't necessarily fit with those other rubrics, respectively Punisher, Daredevil, the Incredible Hulk, and Silver Surfer. Now, later years that they did more of these small annual crossovers for the next few years, and they'd shake it up a bit. But at least for this year, and I think this was probably the best year of these miniature crossovers. I really like the crossovers from this year. We've been looking at a couple of the Terminus annuals, and that's maybe the weakest of the bunch, because the Spider-Man books had a series where Spider-Man shrinks and goes down to fight Psycho Man in the subatomic realm. Had some Gil Kane art on it that I loved, still love. The X-Men family had the Days of Future Present, which is still a well-regarded story to this day. And Lifeform, which is almost completely forgotten because it had absolutely no effects. It didn't launch any characters. There was no continuity coming out of here. Basically, the reason I like it is because you can tell just at a glance that it represented a significant challenge for the creators involved. And that challenge can be summed up very, very simply. How do you make a story with equal parts for the Punisher? Oh, hello. Hello. The Punisher, Daredevil, the Hulk, and Silver Surfer. That's not something that comes up very often, and yet Lifeform was the solution. Speaking of life forms, so the gimmick is that in the Punisher Annual, which sets the whole thing up, that's part one, basically there's a lab accident. There's some sort of terrorist attack at a lab. Punisher is stopping the terrorists, but there's some kind of biological agent that gets loose and it infects a guy. And the next three stories in the annual are basically that guy who got really messed up in the Punisher Annual slowly succumbs to this the biological agent and becomes this monster that eventually becomes big enough to give the Hulk a challenge, and then finally they have to just bring the Silver Surfer in to play cleanup on it. So let's start off here. This is from coming off a really strong era on Daredevil. 1990, this would have been towards the very tail end of the Ann Nocenti run on the character. Now, Ann Nocenti did not write this annual. This was Gregory Wright, who actually did a few Daredevil fill-in stories here and there around this time. So it has sort of the feel of her run, which was definitely a series that was situated in the milieu of New York at the late 80s. And there was a large supporting cast, many of which were just people, kids, hanging around Daredevil's neighborhood who he interacted with. And you get to see some of those characters in this annual. Not a lot of them really came to much after she left the book, unfortunately. But, we'll get there when we get there. Abadox, that's a fun-looking ad. I don't remember ever playing that. Looks like something you would have seen in the arcades in the mid-'80s. Let's see here. So, all right, Gregory Wright, writer and colorist, not the usual combination, with Cam Kennedy, a British talent who you don't see very often in American comics, and yet this is a very nice-looking book. Richard Starking's on letters. So pretty much a, sterling grade creative team all around. What are you doing down there? Oh, you're deciding to be verbal. My goodness. That's a nice picture of Daredevil cruising through his neighborhood. That's the dude. He's still got his, I guess, if I recall correctly, that's his terrorist mask. Where he was left basically after I think the Punisher thought that he dealt with the problem. The Punisher usually deals with his problems, but apparently he didn't deal with the problem hard enough. So we get a nice page of Daredevil running around, doing Daredevil things. Nice, interesting, sort of Colin-esque Daredevil. Definitely. What are you doing? Get away from there. You see, folks, I have learned the lesson of keeping a glass on the table with my back turned to it with this fella in the room. But that doesn't mean that he still doesn't want the glass wherever I put it. It's I don't know what to do with this guy. He's too much. I need my own bionic commando one-man army to deal with him. So literally the moment after I say that, he comes along and knocks over the glass that was situated between my feet. And then he just sits there looking at the puddle of Dr. Pepper, like he doesn't understand what he did. What did I do? This is interesting. How did this happen? My goodness. I've never had a cat like this before. Ever. He's over 2 years old. He should be well past his, kittenish energy, and it's not happening. I've only ever had nice, polite girl cats who like their space. Boy cats are trouble. I guess I underestimated the degree to which boy cats are trouble, especially this one. All right, so Daredevil, he's chasing this guy because he's causing trouble. He apparently just killed that dude. There's some sort of foul stench that's following him. I'm going to need help to unravel this one. So there's our buddy Ben Urich. So he's learning all about what's going on with this virus here. George Prufrock, he's the son of some commie hunter who wanted the virus as part of his personal arsenal. That's breakdown of the plot of the Punisher Annual. But we'd abandoned the project. The chemical produces mental as well as physical distortions. So he's going, he's like, I need medicine, I need help. But it's not doing anything. Feed the pain, flesh for survival. That's some very 2000 AD stuff for you right there. Oh, and I love these guys. It's the Wild Boys. I love them. They apparently killed him in a Wolverine storyline a few years ago, but I refuse to acknowledge that. Because these guys were great, and they never used them for anything. These guys could have been, I thought these guys could have been headliners in their own right. Just a couple basic, low-life hoodlums bumming around New York, taking on small-time jobs. You tell me that wouldn't make a good TV show. Why wouldn't they make a good comic about that? So they come across this guy, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have, balsa wood for brains. I'll bet we can take this thing. And so they throw some knives at it, and that doesn't work. His gimmick seems to be very similar to that sludge guy we watched the other day, actually. And they see him just take these knives out of his head like, uh-oh. No pain, want to feed. And the gun doesn't do anything. And so Daredevil comes along, and Daredevil doesn't have a knife or a gun, so he's got his feet. Let's see how well they do. So he sees Daredevil, and he's most people who wouldn't know who Daredevil is are going to think that he's a villain. Apparently, this guy's brain is just melting, so he just sees someone he's got to fight. The Wild Boys are still trying to. Oh, speaking of Wild Boys, hello. No, you don't get to mess things up anymore. You're done. You don't get to do things. He thinks he gets to do things. He doesn't. So they fight. They took his arm. How'd they take his arm? I forget how he lost it. It happened a few pages ago. Guns, like Skullman. Well, I guess Frank left an impression. That could be dangerous. Yeah. Life form. Oh, take a drink. It's the name of the story. So they're basically, Ben Urich shows up at Matt Murdock's house to have a confab about the life form they're hunting. This is so nice. I'm getting distracted from what is a very nicely drawn comic book here. But man, this is very nice work. You're the beast. So, that's a nice bouncing off the wall. He's confused, unbalanced. Fight the infection, not me. So he's doing this and that and the other thing. What do they do? I don't remember how they solve this one. Police show up, and frankly, they see a monster who's been killing a bunch of people. They're probably justified in opening fire. Of course, Daredevil's like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop you from shooting this guy. Oh, and he's got a tranq gun. Let's see how well that works. Tranquilizers, making the life form's heart race. That did a lot of good. He grabs that guy. Then they try shooting him, and he basically just dissolves. He was a victim as much as those he preyed upon. I couldn't help either of them. Oh, here we go. Here's an ad for some I actually had this game. This was when my parents got me the NES. I think it was like the 1990 Christmas. I got the Stealth ATF game, which I could never make I could not make heads or tails of that game. My mother had the patience to sit there and figure out how to use these very finicky controls, which in hindsight I realized, oh, maybe my mom picked that one up as much for herself as for me, since the flying, I've never cared for simulation games of any kind, let alone the flying type. That's a very dry game for the NES. Don't think I remember ever seeing the Three Stooges or the Archon or Archon. However. Oh, that's a nice page. And they see, oh, well, they may have killed the guy, but he's burbling back to life. Continued in the Incredible Hulk Annual number 6. I may not find exactly what it was. I may not find out exactly what it was we watched dissolve into the pavement, but at least for now, this particular predator of the sea is no more. And these are some of the other supporting characters who never really amounted to much. It's just a kid's street gang, skateboarders, street gang in a much more anodyne sense of the phrase. Basically just these fat boys, these kids on skateboards. Gary Hartle, not a name you see very often anymore. Mike DiCarlo inker. Again by Gregory Wright. And it's just, you get to see these kids having fun. And I dare you to steal one of the Tunnel Teens skateboards. You don't see kid gangs anymore. Kid gangs used to be a huge part of the comic book industry in the 40s. Thanks to, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, Boy Commandos, and Newsboy Legion, the two most famous. Yeah, you don't see either of those guys around anymore. You saw they cloned the Newsboy Legion, so that got some more life out of those characters. Boy Commandos, maybe not one that didn't get a lot of attention from, the Joe Kubert war books. I don't think. So they're going around doing kid stuff. Stealing skateboards. If I get caught, I really will get it. They're all wearing helmets, though, which is good. The older kids, they're not wearing helmets, so they're going to get into trouble here. This is just fun. This is not the kind of thing that might be able to support its own book. But a backup for an annual, this is the type of fun they used to put in there. Just a few pages to let us, the supporting cast, strut their stuff. Watch it. I hate these little brats. Way to go, 8-Ball. They had an 8-Ball who didn't fight Sleepwalker, as opposed to the 8-Ball who was Sleepwalker's arch nemesis. Well, one of his arch nemesis. You could say Cobweb is another, but you do not want me to get off on a rant about Sleepwalker arch nemesis. Now, do you? Oh, and we know that guy. We saw that guy earlier. So they don't have anything that's going to stop this guy. So they get out of there. But then they run smack into the older kids who they stole this guy's skateboard because they had a double dog dare about it. But they managed to get loose because, he's got a knife on this kid, on 8-Ball. But he knows where to kick. Wow, oh, that's going to hurt no matter who did it. Ooh, crack. And, 8-Ball got a taser. Uh-oh. There's Daredevil. What have you kids been doing? You've been up to no good. We ran into the life form. Everyone's just calling him the life form. How come I keep messing up? It's called growing up. Learn from it and return that board to the Tunnel Teens. But he stole it. That's the thing. It wasn't to keep it. It was to steal it. So you have to admit, and indeed Daredevil knows to get get the taser out of the kid's hands. Now, Daredevil, he could carry a taser just fine. I don't think that would be any kind of problem for him, but, what do I know? He's the one who decided, well, I guess he's the man without fear, running around New York with just like a club. A club. What's your big weapon? Oh, it's a club. Real 10th millennia BC technology there. And here we go, another backup, another Gregory Wright joint, but with pencils by Tom Sutton. Another good name you don't usually see in Marvel of this period. Nice, and they're dealing with more of the fallout from the life form. And that's interesting too, because sometimes with these annuals, most of the time the backups would just be, independent. Whereas this, for this Daredevil annual, all the stories sort of have some kind of tie into the life form who's spent a couple days walking around New York and basically messing up a lot of people. Oh, wow. So this is the guy who touches he's about to touch the life form stuff. And he's like, that's kind of dangerous. Maybe you shouldn't do that. And sure enough, that is indeed kind of dangerous. And then he goes to the hospital. Oh man, I remember this. This is grisly. This life form stuff just starts growing on him. See, now that they never use this character or this gimmick again, but that's the type of thing you could that could show up one of these days as like a evil virus just turning people into, not like we haven't had enough, evil viruses lately. But that's gnarly. Look at that. He just starts choking because the life form stuff is growing on him. Oh, there's an ad for Dick Tracy again. I think I mentioned this before in an earlier episode when we saw the Dick Tracy ad, but the more I think about it, the more it was probably all those famous actors with the really weird prosthetic makeup that actively repulsed people from wanting to see the movie. If you've ever seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They had like Pacino and Hoffman just dressed up like all of Dick Tracy's most gruesome villains, and it's absolutely disgusting. Not the type of thing you actually want to watch. And then this is kind of unfortunate because they're doing a color hold here, a red color hold for the fantasies that this guy's seeing in his basically dying on a hospital bed, and they're faded a little bit because older. I actually think I own 2 copies of this though, so the other one's probably in worse shape. Oh my goodness. This is just, so he basically, he codes out on the bed because of this life form stuff killing him, but the bartender who he was extorting, he's not there to pick up the take, so this guy's breathing a sigh of relief on that one. What are you doing? What are you doing? No one wants this. No one wants to be dealing with your business right now. Oh, my goodness. Oh, and here's a Typhoid Mary spotlight with Michael Baer on pictures. Oh, this is a nice looking story. And she's facing this guy too. Now, if you think about it, of all the villains who you could run into, oh, wow. She finds this guy. She basically talks this guy into killing himself because he got him in Dutch with the Kingpin, which that's kind of what Typhoid Mary spends her time doing. I always thought she could have been more of a player, if Elektra was. I like her character more than Elektra. I never really cared for Elektra all that much, but she was actually in the X-Men book. She's in the X-Men books right now, from what I recall. Oh, and he's like, well, I'm not going to eat you. You're beautiful. Mind control doesn't seem to work here. So she's got to reason with him. Who do you send in to do your reasoning? Typhoid Mary. She's got those nasty little knives, long knives of hers. Plus, she can set people on fire and tell them to do things. So he's got this voice in his head that's telling him to kill her and eat her, but he decides not to because she's a beautiful woman, which, I mean, makes about as much sense as anything in this comic book. So they have a little face-off. Oh, wow, look at this. This is nice. He's like, all he sees is these hallucinations. So Typhoid Mary seems to be a type of devil. Oh, my goodness. This is the nicest looking part of the book, I have to say. This back up here. Michael Bear. There's a name. Anytime you see him, you know you're getting something interesting. Very interesting talent. My goodness, though. So she finally tries setting him on fire. And the voice in her head, because she's got multiple voices, says, oh, don't kill this guy. Mary, you sniveling idiot, you're going to get us killed. She didn't know what she was doing. She's sick, twisted. So basically, the life form runs into Typhoid Mary and realizes, like, okay, she's maybe got more problems than I do. Maybe I just need to turn my back and walk away from this situation. That's a nice looking comic book. Stem to stern. And now the realms are yours to conquer. There was a bullpen bulletin. Let's see what we got going on here. Ad for the biggest show of the year, the New York Con that year, in June 1 to 3, 1990. If you like the award-winning Airtight Garage epic graphic novel by Moebius, then you're really in for a treat. That pinnacle of graphic excellence is about to be made into a feature-length animated film. Oh, I've run across this before. The Airtight Garage movie will be the first U.S.-Soviet joint venture on an animated film. Much of the animation will be produced at the largest animation studio in the USSR. The screenplay for the Airtight Garage has been written by Randy Lofficer, and Moebius himself will personally supervise the movie's art direction. The film will be a collaborative effort between the North American Trading Corporation Star Watcher Graphics and Soyuz Multifilm. The movie is scheduled to be completed in 2 years. But if you can't wait that long for a dose of Moebius, oh no. He can't wait that long for a movie that never came out. And the reason I think this movie never came out is that the Soviet Union just about disintegrated the year after this was printed. So there goes your what would have probably been a very nice Moebius movie. The movie's scheduled to be completed in 2 years, but if you can't wait that long for a dose of Moebius, there's still time to run down to your comic book store and pick up the 2-issue Elsewhere Prince limited series by Moebius and Eric Shanoir. Wow. Elsewhere Prince contains the type of epic fantasy Moebius fans have come to love. And don't forget to reserve a seat at your local movie theater now for Airtight Garage, the movie, coming in '92. When the greatest animators of the U.S. and the USSR get together, there's no telling what they can accomplish. Man, wouldn't that have been nice to see? Sigh. They're promoting the big launches of the first half of 1990, which was RoboCop, the Ghost Rider relaunch, John Byrne's Namor, Guardians of the Galaxy, New Warriors, and Spider-Man. I love Namor, Guardians of the Galaxy, and New Warriors. 3 of my favorite books every month they were out. I was sort of on board for the Ghost Rider. The problem was the Ghost Rider was $1.50, and these other books were $1. And I was young enough that, that was a problem. The Spider-Man book, well, if you're a Todd McFarlane fan, I bought it. I think I have 3 or 4 copies of Spider-Man #1, but, it wasn't my favorite. It was a bit, lightly written, shall we say. Oh, and there's also an Alf Annual, although they didn't cross the Alf Annual over into any of the other stories. They could very easily have fit Alf into life form. Can you imagine Alf up against this guy? That would have been great. And we'll never know. All right, so we made it through one book. No thanks to you-know-who. What are you doing? All right, let's see what else we got going here. How about an issue of Green Lantern from the late 90s. Cover dated April 99. This is still from the Ron Marz, Darryl Banks run, and they had Terry Austin doing ink. So this is a really nice looking comic, and that's why I've said in the past I wasn't. What are you doing? Oh my goodness! I've said in the past, Ron Marz, not my favorite writer. He got pegged with writing the cosmic books at both companies, and he never seemed like he really had much of a feel for cosmic books. I read Green Lantern. I read pretty much the entire run of his Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, partly because Darryl Banks. But it was very frustrating because it seemed like he wanted to write a book about a guy hanging around New York and having girl problems when Green Lantern was a book that should, in theory, be about anything in the entire universe. And he spent a lot of time hanging out at a coffee shop with friends, and that was eminently frustrating. One good thing about it, Jade was a supporting character for many years. They had a thing going there. And that was, I don't remember her name. Fatale, was it? She hated Green Lantern, so basically she went around killing ex-Green Lanterns, and so she wanted to kill the one remaining Green Lantern, although there were more other Green Lanterns at this point. Oh, and there's a big Superman. Nice splash page. Really nice. Now, knowing how to draw a very minimal Superman. So you're seeing his back, you're just seeing this cape, this huge field of red that's very, very eye-catching. Get off of there. My goodness. He is just full of it tonight. He's a little monster. I need a Green Lantern ring to deal with this fella. It's one of his robots. That's why they're being clever with it. Oh, because this is one of the... Okay, there was a storyline, and this was sort of when I was starting to check out of the Superman books after really enjoying them for most of the 90s. They just got a bit... there was this long period where he had... they brought back the Superman robots from the Silver Age, and he was using them as sort of, worldwide peacekeeping force, and eventually, if I recall correctly, the Justice League had problems with that. I didn't particularly care for that storyline. And this robot just got a sword through its chest. And there we are. There she is. That's a nice page right there. See, Darryl Banks. Quality stuff. Never really did a lot after Green Lantern. He never had a big run after his run on the character here. And I never understood. I mean, he could have been great. He could have been great on a number of characters. He's just a very talented guy in general. I spent years gathering my trophies, and you're not even worthy of being one. I came to finally kill Green Lantern. There we go. And there's is that John Stewart? Looks kind of like John Stewart. It's a Green Lantern comic, so, with Jade and, I don't know if I remember that person. Moraine. I don't remember. I guess she would have been John Stewart's main squeezy. I was reading the comics at the time. That shows you how good my memory is. I don't remember the name of half of these people. You get to keep... Oh, yeah, she had a spare ring that Kyle gave her at the time. Oh, she was with the Dark Stars, that's why. And the Dark Stars didn't last very long at all. They were sort of a cheap jack cross between the Green Lantern and the Legion. Not the Legion of Superheroes, the Legion acronym that was I think from like 88, 89 through to the early 90s, run by Vril Dox, not the Brainiac, but one of Brainiac's descendants, who basically was in charge of this. Hello. No, get back out of here. Anyway, I'm getting lost in the weeds here, because they're having a nice dinner, and then boom, there she is. Knocks everyone over. They're like, me? Not you. You? That's a nice two-panel beat. Fatality, that was it. I was close. Fatality. Very 90s name. Oh, yeah, she was the sole survivor of Zanshi. So, of course, she wants to kill Jon Stewart more than just about anything, with good reason, because, you know, that was kind of a problem. That really, you know, what do you do with someone's character after they screw up and, like, cause a planet to be blown up? So there's Jade as Green Lantern, you know, because her father was the first Green Lantern. There's that battle tank ad again. It haunts me every day of my life. Maybe that doesn't mean much to you, but I'm more sorry than you can ever understand. Yeah, the sorry doesn't cut it for that. I'm sorry. Like, this is kind of a problem with the character. Saying sorry doesn't cut it for that. What are you doing? Sorry doesn't cut it for trying to eat a comic book bag. Oh, there you go. That's going to stop her. A chair. Well, actually, to be fair, it does seem to knock her back a bit. The Dark Stars were a sorry imitation of the Green Lantern Corps, and I killed most of the Green Lantern Corps. Well, there you go. That's about as succinct an explanation of the Dark Stars as I could give you. I mean, they tried in the early 90s when, you know, pretty much anything sold. They had Gene Ha doing the crossover that launched them, I think, or one of the crossovers that the book was in, at least. Early Travis Charest. They had some interesting artists on Green Lantern in the early 90s. No one was really buying them, though. Oh, I never recharged. Well, there you go. You ever think like, wow, that's a really silly imitation? And apparently not silly enough. Oh, and there's the guy who's actually, you know, the guy, the Green Lantern with his crab mask. I still don't know where his nose goes. I know this is an old joke, but I bought every issue of this guy's book, and I still do not understand where his nose went. There was never like a backup, like where Kyle's nose goes. I don't know, is that Bob Kane obituary again? Oh, so they cut away right before the battle starts. And then, oh, there's a naked guy wandering around in the woods. What are you doing out here in the middle of nowhere? Buck naked, no less. I don't remember what. Has he become some fire guy? I don't know. I don't know about him. Let's see any names on the letters page. Already seen a lot of AOL addresses. Next, Kyle's back. You barely survived fatality last time, and with Jade out of the picture, or is she? And don't count John down and out. Oh, and this is a Green Lantern Corps, the New Corps, 2-issue prestige series by Chuck Dixon, Scott Eaton, and Annabelle Rodriguez. That's who I get for my Cosmic, Chuck Dixon. Yeah, DC Cosmic, it's always, you know, hit or miss. All right, one more book. Let's see. How are we doing on time here? All right, what do we got? Gotta have something interesting in here. Oh, how about Oh, goodness, here's one for you. From the same month as the Green Lantern, let's look at an issue of Hitman. Oh, man, this was a great book. Every month it was out, this was one to look forward to. Because every month it was solid creative team. Garth Ennis, John McCrea, Gary Leach on inks. And every month pretty much was... I mean, it was kind of a depressing book. There's no getting around the fact it was a story about a man who kills people for a living and who has a very unhappy backstory, shall we say. What are you doing? I just saw you eating. You usually calm down after you eat. Why are you not calming down? Ah, he's not going to calm down all night, is he? Father's Day. Does he kill his father in this one? I can't even remember. I told Tommy his mother was dead when I found her. I lied. Oh man, this is a nice book. Nice looking book. And you know, ultimately, it didn't really come to much in the end as far as, you know, having a big influence on the rest of the line or continuity, because, you know, this guy was sort of set off in his own little cul-de-sac. And spoiler alert, there's a reason why he doesn't show up anymore. They killed him in the last issue, and it's kind of, you know, not something you can really complain about, since we just spent like 5 years watching him basically be a very bad person, and there's no argument that he didn't deserve a walk into the sunset. Without a doubt, the best thing to come out of the Bloodlines, if you're following the TikTok channel, or for that matter, you know, maybe you're watching this at some point in the future when I have the compilation videos of those reviews up on the YouTube here. Bloodlines was in many ways well, you know, it was an annual crossover, just like Lifeform, only it was like 20-something issues long. Now, it wasn't quite as involved in terms of plot. There wasn't that much plot that followed over from one issue to the next, because every issue pretty much just the same thing happened. The monsters show up, they'd eat a bunch of people, one of those people would rise up with superpowers, and it just so happened that one of the people who got... What are you doing? He's taken to fixating on this one cabinet in the kitchen. The cabinet where I keep all the, you know, the spices and cooking supplies and stuff. It's driving him nuts, and he keeps climbing up on the counter to get into it. I don't understand. So anyway, alien attack. This was the guy who survived with... His eyes do something weird. It's not really something that comes up very often in the book, because it's kind of a useless superpower, except for in very, you know, limited circumstances. But it makes his eyes red, so it gives him an excuse to wear, you know, the cool black sunglasses everywhere he goes. I don't remember this at all. I'm not going to be sitting around watching it now. Oh, F. Gary Gray, though. He's an interesting director. Oh, wow. There's a handsome man for you. Are they in Ireland? I forget. Maybe they're in Ireland at this point. I think there was a storyline where they because of course, you know, Garth Ennis was writing it, so they had to at some point go back to the motherland. Oh, and here's a Castlevania 64. The only Castlevania I think I've ever played was the NES one, where you're the side scroller, where you're running around the castle whipping things, which, you know, nothing at all subtextual about there. You killed my mother, you frigger. What kind of savage bloody animal are you? Oh man, this is just like really, really dark family drama stuff. Dying women like wandering in a blizzard. And the screams of them when they saw the state I'd left her, and that was enough for me. So it's basically a serial killer. There you go. Well, if you want someone to deal with a serial killer, this is probably your guy. Daredevil, he's probably going to leave the guy for the cops. But if you want to actually get rid of the problem, invite the Mafia Hitman over. Oh, man. And you can see, like, he's done this. Garth Ennis has done this scene. Definitely, I remember one scene in The Punisher Max, very much like this, where the guy with the gun comes across the woman, and he's been, like, 5 minutes too late to keep something really nasty from happening. Oh, man. See, this is just parachuting in randomly to this one issue. This is more or less how it was. Every now and again, they'd have some funny episodes. And the funny episodes was like Zombie Night at the Gotham Aquarium, which is when all the animals at the Gotham Aquarium became zombies. One of the best two-parters in the history of comic books. But that's the idea. That's the type of sense of humor we're dealing with here. You ain't even worth a bullet, boys. This is just so you never forget it. Now, he's a Gotham boy. Do we still go by the yardstick that... What are you doing? Are we still going by the yardstick that Gotham is somewhere, between New Jersey and Delaware? Because you like to imagine Batman speaking in a really, really broad, central Atlantic coastline accent, and I guess Tommy would be slightly in that region as well. There's only going to be one more death tonight. Well, the last of the bastards. I seen some bad. What are you doing? There must be something, some type of cat alluring item in that cabinet that I don't know what it is. He wants to go. God, get out of here. Oh, my goodness. He has just got the devil in him tonight. It's the Krampus. He's waiting for the Krampus to come. Oh, so this is his dad. Okay. So his dad's like a mad dog killer, and he's got to put him down. This ain't about me. This is about the kids you burned to death, and poor Frances and Katie, who you treated like dirt and then slaughtered like she was nothing. Man, this is dark stuff. This is why it's a good book, but it's not a book you recommend to everyone, and it's not a book that you sit down to read for a fun experience. This is one for the when you're in a mood. Legend of Legaia? Oh, don't remember that at all. If this were Los Angeles, it would be considered a stage 8000 smog alert. Well, if you're not in Los Angeles, that tagline doesn't mean a lot now, does it? Everyone in the video games had a green mist at the time, because I guess someone at one of the programming schools figured out how to do the green mist real easy. Oh, merciful Christ, who could have done this with her? To her. Oh, so we get to see. Oh, man. This is rough stuff. So I guess this is his mother. Right before he was born. So 72. We actually have a date then. He was born in 72, and this is 99. So that's 27. Crimson 11. We looked at an issue of Crimson not that long ago. I want to say I have the whole set somewhere or other. I just have to stick it together and out all those boxes. Oh. Okay, well, see that's a bit heavy. That's a bit heavy. My goodness. Maybe something a bit less heavy to finish us off here. What do we got? Oh, here we go. X-Men 2099. Towards the end of the run. This is issue 30, and I don't think it made it to 40, because they're already doing the X Nation promotion, which is it was the last stage of the 2099 books. The X Nation was, I think, man, I was starting to lose my patience with the 2099 books, which I had loved so much, and they were going downhill so quickly. So this X Nation was essentially, they put together a city of mutants in the Southwest somewhere or other during the tail end of Doom's presidency. Ron Lim is still drawing. Ron Lim is still drawing. Who's doing the inking here? Harry Candelario. Giving it kind of a sketchy feel. Usually most of the people who go after Lim's work, they have a strong, almost clean line, I'd say, which isn't that great for texture. He's at least trying to give Lim some texture that he needs. Halo City, I think that was the name of it. Like I said, I have no clue what was going on here. Oh, and there's Morphine. What's that guy's name? He was sort of your prototypical Warren Ellis character. Well, his name was something Morphine, and he basically was a mutant. He was on Dr. Doom's cabinet when he conquered conquered the United States of the future. And so Shakti, that's that person's name. I want to say she's a telepath of some kind, because of course it's the mutant book, so there has to be some type of absolutely absurdly overpowered telepath somewhere or another. And the New Pacific Channel. I guess this is a crowd of refugees. Oh, I remember the Spider-Man pasta. I ate the Spider-Man pasta. Didn't taste like Spider-Man. You'd think, oh, it's going to taste like Spider-Man. No, it pretty much just tasted like every Chef Boyardee product since the beginning of time. Maybe they shouldn't have colored this man's duffel very near the same tone as his skin, because it looks like he's got a giant growth on his neck there. That's Nostromo. He ends up being one of the characters from the X Nation book, if I recall correctly. Don't remember what any of these people's mutant powers were. Oh, wow. Malibu advertisement. So here's 2 pages advertising what Marvel was pushing out with the Malibu characters. There's Foxfire, who's a character from the Phoenix Resurrection. So she's a Phoenix-associated character who's never been seen again because she's associated with the Ultraverse. Handbook to the Malibu Ultraverse. Oh, I don't even remember that they did a handbook. That might be kind of fun in a completely, morbid kind of way. The Nightman and Gambit. There's a team up for you. Who would they get for that? David Quinn. He had a surprisingly long run on Doctor Strange. He wrote Doctor Strange for years. Tim Vigil never had anything to do with Marvel, but David Quinn did. Dietrich Smith. Oh, if you got a newcomer drawing in, that could be kind of a gamble. Prime 5. Oh, they're well into the oh, come on, honey. Yeah, so they're already up to 5 on these the Ultraverse books that they relaunched after Black September. All of which were just like the Rune relaunch. There's some interesting Kyle Hotz artwork. That's all I'll say to it. Other than that, they put Adam Warlock in there, and it didn't really do anything for anyone. The less said of the... Oh, my God. I let go of him, and he just races to the kitchen. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Ugh. You're going right back there, aren't you? Oh my goodness, I can't deal with this animal. I can't deal with him. I need to bring in the Marines or someone or something to deal with this creature. So what are we doing here? I'm not that impressed by the later Lim here, I'll be honest. Certainly isn't as popping as much as with the Kubert inks, and I don't think Kubert was his best inker by any means, but the early run of this book was pretty nice looking. There's the guy who runs fast. Mean Streak. You know, they never brought these guys back in any capacity. They didn't really have any connection to the 20th Century X-Men. They should have put in some kind of connection so that they could actually use these characters for something else, but they never did. Maybe that's what they're going to do after Krakoa, the return of the 2099 X-Men. Oh my good Lord. See what I mean? The moment I let go of him, right back to the kitchen to try to open that cabinet. Ow! Yeah. And they put Doom in this really awful... As soon as you see this armor, the 2099 line, it's over. It's done. There's nothing to it. Because then he goes back in time and fights like the Fantastic Four in the 20th century, and just the proliferation since the first atomic bombs were detonated in the middle of the last century, the proliferation of Homo superior upon this planet began growing exponentially. Each successive mutant generation has produced certain individuals whose actions have profoundly affected this country. From the ill-fated genetic accords of the 30s to the genocidal purge that followed, 21st century America has defined itself by its response to the mutant premise. There's a reference to Harry Seldon there for you. So he's already been thrown out of office by this guy named Herod, who was the big villain they brought in. Basically the last gasp of the corporations, who knew that if Doom stayed in power, he was eventually just going to crush, every corporation in the country. So they teamed up and kicked him out of office. See, these were very politically charged books, very anti-capitalist. What do we got going here? So I don't know what these people are doing. Screamtown. That's a fun name. Oh, it's the Max. There we go. Oh, NHL trading cards. They're still pushing the sports cards. Yeah, like I say, I think they're pushing characters who are going to be part of X Nation here. Oh, yeah, this isn't really... Oh, she's beautiful. Yeah, well, she's a telepath on a mutant team. What do you expect? 2099 bitmapped. Spider-Man 2099 is up to 41. Ghost Rider 2099 is up to 23. Get out of there! I haven't been counting. Is that like a dozen times I've had to get up to take care of this guy tearing the kitchen apart? Oh, my Lord. Are we almost done here? My goodness. I think we're almost done. With this. Just a couple more pages to go. The new X Factor. Marvel's monthly mutant militia. There's a ad tag for you. With... it had early Steve Epting art. That's the one thing you can say about X Factor in this period. Other than that, it was just a bunch of characters who absolutely hated each other, fighting each other. Shard and Wild Child is a great lineup right there. I don't even remember how Shard ended up in the present. If that was just her hologram, I don't remember. Oh, and there's Dr. Doom with a shotgun. He took to carrying a shotgun in this period, which was admittedly not a problem. That worked pretty well for what he was doing at the time. This is an inhibitor spike. Your mutant talent has been disabled. Morphine Summers. That's his name. Oh, so he built this paradise city for the mutants, but it's got all sorts of hidden passages and stuff for his use. There you go. But what are you doing? Oh my goodness. First thing he does is reach for, I forget what they call them. That's not a cigarette. I think that's a death stick or something. No, death stick is Star Wars, I think. Oh, well. To be continued in X Nation #1, on sale now. And next issue, the X-Men find mayhem in Mexico City. Fun stuff. But you can see they were kind of running on fumes at this time. Who was writing this? John Moore. He'd written the whole book, and he was great at hitting whatever balls you pitched him. And, that's true of, his work on the 2099 books, and later on when he moved in and he had a run on X-Force as well. And there's one of the less good Hellraiser movies, although it's a very watchable movie. If you ever come across this movie on cable in the middle of the night, it's definitely watchable, although you can't watch it and wonder what it would have been like if they had actually been able to finish the version that they made, and which was subsequently butchered by the studio. It's still kind of fun, though. I'm a Hellraiser fan in general. All right, well, I think this guy is telling me that we're about done for the day. So, stick around. We got plenty of other videos on here to watch. I put up daily reviews, comic book reviews on TikTok and Instagram. I have a lot of fun doing them. We're reading through all of Bloodlines every Wednesday. Right now, every Friday, we're reading The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck with Dawn Rosa, so I'm really enjoying that. What else? I got a podcast with Claire Napier. It's called Udder Madness. We talk about Top Cow comics, meaning Mark Silvestri, Michael Turner, The Darkness, Witchblade, Cyberforce, Fathom, all that good stuff. Very slowly, I'm putting up video annotations of the podcast on here, on YouTube. And what else? You can usually find my work every week at the Comics Journal, although not right now as I'm speaking. It's the middle of the holidays, but usually every week or so I have something or other up on that site. Trying to think. Check out my Patreon. If you like these videos, if you want me to make more of these videos or make them at a faster clip, that's probably the best way to show your support, is to join the Patreon. I'm going to be relaunching my newsletter via the Patreon, via a free tier sometime after the first of the year. I'm not bothering with it until then. We did a newsletter earlier in the year on Tiny Letter, and then Tiny Letter went kaput because that's just everything in this day and age. It goes kaput once people figure out it's not making enough money. But hopefully Patreon is, knock wood, hope Patreon sticks around for a while. Anyway, I can't think of anything else I have to say. Y'all have a wonderful day. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to those around you. Be kind to small children. Be kind to animals, yes. Even the animals who drive you bonkers. Have a wonderful day.